All right, excited to get going here and talk with Trey Brown, who, I'm just really excited to have you on here, Trey. Trey, senior personnel executive for the Bengals, been here since 2021, but that's just really the latest chapter in what's been a fun run through the NFL for Trey on the personnel side. Has been with New England, Philadelphia, the St. Louis Battlehawks, and the XFL, and then make a way to you've seen it all, Trey. It's good to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is exciting. I'm fired up.
Yeah, I'm really first of all, you started at UCLA, and so it's getting to be a little much inside of the Bengals personnel department and the coaching staff with his UCLA ties. Like, just everybody, no Bruin should go undrafted, or at least you don't know every detail about them to this point when you consider the amount of UCL people that we've seen pass through this building at this point.
Well, I think we just lost one, so we might have to replace them. When we lost Brian Callahan, that's another Bruin, so we might need to reload here. And maybe in the draft here, we can get some Bruins. I mean, top education coming out of UCLA.
There's no question. I will say Westwood is maybe the most beautiful campus I've ever been on. When we were out there for the Super Bowl, it was my first time on that campus, and I get it. I get why people are going there. Like, I get why it's a destination. It's pretty incredible. You guys picked it right. I went to Ohio University. We claim a lot of things, but and it's a beautiful campus, but it ain't that.
Well, I got a lot of love for Ohio too. But yeah, UCLA, I do bleed a little bit of blue. If I was to get a cut, going back to both my mom and my father being Bruins and going to school there. So I got deep roots into UCLA, but love it here in Ohio, here in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Let me start here. You've been with the Bengals since 21, 3 drafts in the books. You've seen a lot of how this place works, and there's a lot discussed about how it is a unique scouting environment here. What is it about this place that you have liked and that has connected your professional drive here? Because you've been here and we've seen obviously some great things happen since you've been here. What has it been about this place and the way that it operates that is connected with you?
Well, I think you can look at any business where leadership starts from the top, and we have great leaders at that spot. Starting with our ownership, they do a great job allowing us to kind of dive into the scouting process. And then obviously our personnel department led by Duke Tobin, which gives us really the freedom and flexibility to both, evaluate on every aspect of the business, whether if that's college scouting, pro scouting, stuff that goes on during the season. We are really involved in a lot of things here, and that gives us great attention to detail and allows us to find the best players that fit our system here in Cincinnati.
Is there one favorite pick or scouting story about a player that sticks out to you the most over the time that you've been here in Cincinnati?
Well, I think the draft's exciting. Anytime you get a chance to add good guys to help improve your roster, I mean, for us personnel people, I mean, we love that. I think one that sticks out, I mean, just as you see how the young man's career has gone so far, is Cam Taylor-Britt, in terms of being able to do the research before the draft to get everything in line. And I think we did a great job that year, kind of knowing the entire landscape of that entire position at the cornerback group, where we targeted a player and we felt there might be some risk with this guy going and getting drafted before we're on the clock here. And we showed some aggressiveness going up to move up to grab Cam Taylor-Britt. And, this guy's had a great career so far, and we are very pleased in his development and what he's done on the outside at corner. And, we're just, looking forward to adding more guys like that. But I think that's a good example on going through the process, identifying a guy you really like, but then going after him and actually acquiring the player, because there's so many times where you evaluate the guy, you stack your board here, 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 and then ultimately you don't get a chance to get the guy. But anytime you evaluate a good player, you feel good about how he fits into your offense or your defense or special teams, but then you go after and actually get the player. I think that was a great pick for us. And I think when you look how we went through the process, I think that was something to be excited about.
Well, that's a good case study because, well, one, it's rare around here. That's the only time Duke has traded up in the first or second round. And I think he still is grinding himself over giving up any picks that he did. I mean, the man, no, he loves his picks like any personnel executive does, right? Like, I want the more, the better. But it's a good case study. What was it along that path? And was there a point with Cam where there were certain traits that made all of you look at each other, or something that he said or did, or a tape evaluation or a cross check that made you guys as a department start looking at each other and saying, this could be the perfect fit for us? And how does that come about? How does a player like that bubble up?
Well, I think you got to study the entire process, and really dive into everything. What I mean by that is, we obviously get a chance to evaluate these guys during the fall when they're playing real games on Saturday or sometimes Tuesday nights, on Fridays, but during the course of the college season. So you get a good evaluation there. But now we got so many opportunities to get in front of these guys after the season, right? So you have the combine, you have all-star games, you have interviews where you can bring guys into your building. And really, you got to dive into every particular point of before the draft to really get a good feel for these guys. Cam Taylor-Britt was actually a guy that was at the Senior Bowl, so we got some exposure to him there. Obviously, studied him during the course of his college career there at Nebraska, and then got an opportunity to get in front of the guy, whether it be combine interviews, bringing him in for a top 30 visit, where we felt like, man, this guy is not only is he a great athlete, he's explosive, but he's wired the right way. And you can see that how he plays. I mean, he's physical, he's aggressive. And I think those are the traits we saw on tape, but also had an opportunity to talk to the player coming out. And boy, did he fit what we were looking for, what Lou and those guys on defense are trying to do schematically. He was a perfect fit. And then ultimately, like I touched on, is you can do all that work and you do all the work and say, man, this guy's a great fit. But the beauty of this process is going and actually getting a guy. And that's where we feel like that's when you hit a home run, is you do the work, you have a good value for the guy, you think he fits your system, but then you have the opportunity to maybe move up or sometimes even move back and still get the player that you want. And that's kind of a good synopsis on kind of what happened there with Cam Taylor-Britt.
Yeah. I mean, those 30 visits matter, man. Like they do, right? I mean, they're used for different reasons. I mean, I know you know, whether it's trying to convince somebody who's going to be undrafted to want to come here, or sifting through somebody or just medicals, or it is maybe personality stuff. But in a lot of times, I mean, especially with the top of the draft, just that personality touch can be enough to differentiate. Is that typical where every year there'll maybe be one or maybe two guys that come on a visit that really do impress the building, and that makes a difference in them being somebody that gets very specifically targeted?
Yeah, I think these guys, they do a good job. I mean, coming in and really, showcasing their talents, and, being able to look a guy in the eye and, shake their hand and say hello and get to know the player a little bit more. Obviously, when we're out at the games and watching these guys during the course of the season, we're not talking to them. We don't know about their family, how they grew up, what makes them tick, what's their why, how they study the game. So you just get more time to bring the guys in. They get a chance to meet really everybody throughout our organization, and we get a real good feel about those guys and how they fit, and what makes them tick, and then also how do we want to coach them, or how do we want to maximize their ability. So I think it's a great opportunity for guys to come in and really for us to get a chance to know the player. And I'll be totally honest, like there's some guys that come in and hurt themselves, right? Like some guys might be a great fit for some other teams and not for us, but ultimately we're looking for players that fit our team, fit the Cincinnati Bengals, criteria. And that's what we look to do. And I think, like you said, those 30 visits give us an extra opportunity to kind of find out what these guys are all about.
I want to talk about your background a little bit because, yeah, I don't know if you can come from more different corners of the map in terms of the NFL landscape. You've got New England, who operates very uniquely, and certainly did when you were there as a scout, and then Philly, which we've seen Howie Roseman operates very uniquely, and the Bengals operate very uniquely. I'm curious, what is something that you've taken from each place that maybe has carried with you, whether it would be a person, a philosophy, a mantra, something that like at New England, what's something that from there that has always stuck with you about your time there, and how you can use that at your other stops?
Well, I think first, talking about New England, there's a lot of stuff that sticks with me from there. It was my first stop. I mean, I didn't know what scouting was or how to scout. And so I was a former player and, was a guy that lived on the edge at corner trying to cover guys and break on routes, let alone, knowing what arm length is and, how the offensive tackle sets and, what a good long snapping time is. So really everything in terms of the foundation I learned there. I've been really blessed to be around a lot of great people in this business, really at every stop. And that's probably a little bit unique to have those experiences that I've had at different spots along the way. But I think every little spot that I've been in, I've been able to at least take some of the positives, which there are a whole lot, and just being able to apply it to how I handle my business, throughout the course of the season. And so New England, like I said, was the first place where I really learned everything, learned how to scout, then got an opportunity to really develop and learn even more in Philadelphia with those guys and at the Eagles, and now where I am in Cincinnati, where I think there's, like I say, there's a lot of ways to win. It's people have different styles, different philosophies, but I think each organization I've been in, they've won. We've had success, and so that's a good thing to be able to take things from successful people, guys that have won in this business, and really apply it to what we're doing now. And I think we do a good job being able to have open conversations and take new ideas when we're here in Cincinnati. And then anything that I can bring to the table or any of my other peers in scouting here, I think we're open and honest, and we have no problem sharing any philosophies or anything that we think can be able to help us get the right player.
Is evaluation in every building, or is the process significantly different from New England to Philadelphia? Or is it, look, it's players, it's knowing, it's understanding players, it's understanding people, it's understanding football and how it works, or is there a different, or the method is so different from place to place that there is a very different way of going about it?
Yeah, I think it is. That is very different at different spots. And it also depends on who's coaching that team and what system are you running on defense, what system you're running on offense. I can only speak to what we're doing in Cincinnati now, but I would think there's a lot of different schematics within our division, and they probably look for maybe a slightly different player than we look for. Now, ultimately, we're all looking for good players, but you could be a great player but not be a fit for us. So ultimately we're looking for guys that fit our system, that obviously fit what Zach does on in terms of culture fit, how they fit in, how they learn. And that's really what we have to focus on. There's sometimes in the draft where you might have a guy down on the board, it goes real high to another team. We can't worry about that. Ultimately, we got to get the guys that we select right. These guys got to come in and produce, and then that gives the fans and everybody out there in Who Dey Nation to be proud of.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that personnel departments can make on draft weekend, or that teams make these days? So that is there something that is the biggest mistake that you can make that you guys spend a lot of time trying to avoid?
I think the easiest thing you can do is get away from the college film. It's very easy to then forget about what this guy does in shoulder pads and helmets when you go through the couple months when they're in shorts and T-shirts running around cones, catching passes on air, but ultimately you got to get off a block. You got to make a tackle. You got to make a guy miss in the hole. Some of those things you don't get an opportunity to see in the postseason. So I think what we try to do is make sure, we take every process and we grade it, but you do not want to forget about that critical aspect of the evaluation, which ultimately is, what are these guys doing on the field? What are they doing when you turn on that tape? And those are the traits you don't want to lose sight of, because like I said, there's parts of the postseason where they're not doing those things. Like, it's been a long time, I would say, when I saw, a linebacker make a tackle. I mean, that was back in the fall the last time somebody did that. You get the Senior Bowl All-Star games, but at practice, they're not bringing the guys to the ground. They're not, hitting guys coming across the middle. So I think if you try to get away from what they do on the fall, that's when you get in trouble. I think that's a big aspect of part of the player evaluation, is what are these guys doing on the football field? And I think that's something we take pride in.
I know you've got all the draft industrial complex, the media world, where we obsess over analytics and numbers and trying to find something that's predictive, and using combine stuff and GPS speeds and all that stuff obviously has value. But you're so right. It's, can you wrestle a bear, right? Can you go out there and can you do it in the heat of the battle? And can you find a way to be physical? And so much of that, do you have the personality to do that, which is what you guys are charged with finding out, if people have the personality to do that, not just at the college level, but when it gets harder, which is just, the idea of trying to predict human behavior. It's a tough way to make a living that you guys choose, but it's hard to do that. For that fact, here's my next question. What moment in draft weekend is most nerve-wracking for you guys? I mean, is it before is it the first round pick? Is it later on? Is it just in the waiting? What is the most nerve-wracking part of draft weekend for you guys?
Being totally honest, I mean, there are no nerves on draft day. This is what we do. This is what we love. I mean, we're in the zone. I mean, I don't think there's anybody flinching, at least when I look right or left around in the draft room. I mean, there's no nervousness. So I think it's all exciting, right? Because I think every pick is critical. And ultimately, first round, seventh round, or even guys that we sign after the draft, I mean, they're here for a reason. So I think all those guys have an opportunity to make an impact. And we take pride in every point of the draft. And it doesn't really matter if you're the first round pick, sixth round pick, seventh round pick. We're dialed in and we're trying to find the right guy.
All right, I'll give you a chance. Is there what is your one evaluation that still haunts you? Or either you loved the player and it didn't get to you, or it didn't happen, or maybe a player that you regretted not taking or something at some point. Is there one that you still think about, when you're up at night thinking about, like, the year was 2015 and it was the fourth round, right? Is there something that still sticks with you over your time from any stops?
I mean, not off the top of my head, and maybe I'm playing a little poker. I mean, not want to tell on myself, because maybe some of those guys are at our rival spots. But no, I think really in the draft, I mean, you got to be just calm and collective, because you really don't know what's going to happen. What we're picking at 18, and we might move up, we might move back, we might pick somebody at 18. And really, you just got to just stay the course, and you evaluate every player, and you're able to make really good decisions. And I know it's a little bit of time we have to make those picks, but when you're prepared, and the thing about our business is we spend a lot, and especially in terms of the draft, we spend almost a full year on these guys for, a couple days on the weekend, right? So to be able to pick these guys. So when you're spending a full year, doing research, doing background, talking to your sources, talking to coaches, studying on tape, interviewing, interacting with the guy, I mean, you feel ready to go and you're confident in your decision. And I think that's what makes it this business great, is because the draft is crazy. Anything can happen, but you got to be prepared, calm, collective, and don't flinch. Don't have those nerves that you were talking about a little bit ago. Be ready to go. And I think that's what we do.
You're right. The preparation takes the nerves out of it, which is the one question I wanted to. What is the most passionate portion of the draft process for you guys? When, when the proverbial standing on the table happens, when people are making their case, when the debates about players are hottest, when is that? When does that happen? Is it just amongst you scouts who I know are insanely competitive with each other, before the coaches get involved? Is it when the coaches get involved? Is it as you're setting the board at the last second? When is the passionate debate portion of the program? When's it hottest?
Probably a little bit ago today. You know,
you just came from it. That was it.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. I mean, we all have, all take pride in what we do, and the conversations we have are great, and you really love to see passion and energy from your personnel department, along from these coaches that spent time getting to know these guys. And so to answer your question, I think a lot of that happens prior to the draft, right? Like I said a little bit ago here, and those conversations happen. Then you set your board, you're ready and prepared, and then you just it just flows. And then the guys that are really making this thing work, which is all of us, we are able to have those conversations and dialogues and be able to pivot. Like you said, you might have a trade up, you trade back, but I think a lot of those passionate conversations really happen, weeks prior to the draft, when you're setting your board and really combing out some of these concerns or non-concerns that you maybe have with the player.
Have you ever seen anyone actually stand on a table? I've always wanted to know this, if this has ever happened. This line gets used all the time. Who do you stand on the table for? Who you pound the table? Has anyone actually done this in your presence? Stood on a table and said, it's got to be Jamar Chase, right? Like, have you ever seen someone actually stand on a table before?
Not yet, but I'm normally on the edge of my seat, so I'm ready to do that when the opportunity comes. And if that does, I'll let you know. Maybe somebody will send a picture, take a shot of me doing that. But no, I mean, you got some passionate folks in there, and it's a passionate business here in football, and you love that. But actually standing on the table, we got some big guys. We got some former players too. I don't know how much that table could handle with some of these guys. We got some former D linemen. We have some former O linemen in the room. So me being a 5'9" corner, I can probably get away with it. Probably more so than some of the other guys.
You could do it just to show off a box jump. I mean, you could just hop on up there just to show off how athletic you still are. It's not anything about passion. It's just about physicality. You know what I'm saying? I love it. I was wanting. I asked everybody one time, I want somebody to be like, yeah, I actually saw it once. Someone did stand on the table, and I want to know who they did it for. One of these days, someone's going to say yes.
It's coming.
I can't wait. You let me know. Trey, I appreciate your time. You guys put in so much work year round. Congratulations on making it to this point. I know this is the fun part now as you get to the end, but I don't think people know all the work that your whole group puts in over there and how hard that is, and how many, Marriott points and airline miles that you guys have to log to try to get to this spot. But it can be thankless. But certainly it's impressive to see all that you guys do. So congrats on making it to this point, and good luck next weekend.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. This is great. And I'm sure Cincinnati fans are ready to go too on draft day. I'm sure that everyone's got their mocks. They got their selections. The question is, I always see these mock drafts in the first, second, third round. Does anybody do mocks to the 7th round? Now
our guy Dane Brugler just did his 7-round mock draft, just came out today. He's got the full, of course, he wrote the Bible. He's also got 450 scouting reports that he's posted up, so he can do it easily. But we'll have this. The 7-rounders are out there. Those are the real ones.
Yeah,
those are the real ones.
Yeah, that's the real stuff. I mean, like you said, we take pride in every pick. It's not just 1 through 3. You got to maximize the value at every point of every stop of the draft. So I'll be looking forward to check you guys out to see if you guys knocked that out of the park like we're hoping to.
I'll send my 7-rounder your way, and you can feel free to rip it up and make fun of me on the way. I appreciate that. Thanks,
stuff,
Trey.
Man.
Appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good one.